Hey, it's Low Profile. I'm Markley Morrison, and this is the fifth installment of highlights from this year's Scherler Sundays concert and interview series. Today's show was recorded on July 16th, 2023, behind the Carnegie Library in Olympia, Washington, and features performances from the San Diego band The Gift Machine and Hot Rush. Plus, Joshua James Amberson reads from his latest book, Staring Contest. The Gift Machine is returning to Low Profile after being featured way back on episode 7 in 2019. Their latest album is called Consolation Prize. This episode was engineered by Kefa Crow, documented by Andrew Ebright, mixed and edited by Rose Nielsen, and supported by you on patreon.com/lowprofile. Plus, in-kind support from Olympia's Old School Pizzeria, Rainy Day Records, San Francisco Street Bakery, and Three Magnets Brewing Company. And without further ado, it's The Gift Machine. Give it up, y'all.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Okay, 2, 3.
A howling wind, gale force, blowing everything off course. Signal static, breaking up. I'm coming in a little hot. The shadows are stretching, you're keeping me guessing. A real wild road. Sawdust and grist, I took a swing and I missed. That's how it goes. Terra firma, quite uncertain. I feel a little bit worried, but don't interrupt. I'm trying to work out the courage. Sky is turned a blackish red. Little devils in my head are working like worms into wood. What I meant misunderstood. Painted over patina, there's too many Tina's holding court. Sword inside sawdust and grist. I took a swing and I missed. So what's your point? Terra firma, quite uncertain. I feel a little bit hurried, but don't interrupt. I'm trying to work up the courage. Thanks so much.
2, 3, 4.
Power through, I hear the gap, but I went so far I could not get back. Elemental secret plan. I do not think I was made for that, but I don't mind me. Let's keep it coming. I don't mind me. Don't mind me, just keep it coming. I don't mind me. And I
We've been on tour in the Pacific Northwest for the last 8 days. This is our 7th show. I can tell the practice.
Then we're done. I'm so stoked.
We just played in Anacortes yesterday. It was beautiful. Shipwreck Day
then
Fest.
lake
Been
swimming.
all over the place. Yeah.
Very
It's
Eaton.
good to be back home. I'm from here. I live in California now. I'm a greener.
2, 3, 4.
Making the switch turn from on to off again. And who knows when we can fix it. A momentary glitch turns to monumental damage done. I'll do what I can. I'll run from the man. I'll dance with my pants off. Who knows where or when we can fix it. I'm doing these things like a puppet on a string. I swear, who knows how long it could be till I'm free. I fell off of the map. Push it open again. There was no why or when. There were no clues. I could not follow you on your trail. There is a moment ahead, but it's passing us fast. It's passing us fast. Who knows how long it could go till I know. I fell off of the map. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the gift machine.
Thank you, sir.
It's been a minute since I seen you up this way.
Yeah, we haven't been back up here since 2019.
2019.
I think, well, we played in Anacortes acoustic like in 2021, I think, 2
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
So exactly 2 years ago, yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a little different. We had a band last time we were up here, 5-piece band, but the guitar player moved to Portland during the pandemic, and the bass player, she had a baby. And she was going to come with us, but we all kind of came to our senses about a baby, you know,
On the road.
in a
for-
car
I was
with 4
ready.
people. Yeah.
I have an empty nest, so it's something to have a baby in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yours are just recently grown up and
out of there.
out of there, yeah.
Yep.
So, so a lot more time for rock and roll now?
Yeah.
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 Is that cathartic?
Yes, I'm
Is that-
loving it. Loving it. There's
Yeah.
a lot of time for rock and roll and other things. There's a big lot of things. This world opens up. Yeah, traveling and all kinds of things. Like
Yeah.
anything you really want to do at whatever time you want to do it. So that's probably the best thing. Yeah.
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 You're a
I mean, can you
agree with
even
that.
you can't imagine yet. There's no, it's not close for you.
No, it's not. I can't see that far into the future.
Yeah.
But it's good to know. And you were working on some movies and stuff, Dave?
Yeah, I've been video editing for a long time. I have some good documentaries coming up in the music world, but I can't really talk about it. I told you some stuff that I'm not supposed to say, but it's some good stuff. Good New York 60s, 70s documentary that hasn't been done on some cool bands, so I'm pretty excited. It's kind of like my dream gig.
Still in the photography business,
Yep.
I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
I shoot people for a living.
Yeah.
And then for fun,
Assassin.
it's film and alternative process. That's what the shirts are. So that's my fun.
Excellent. All right. Speaking of process, the new record.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me all about it?
All about it? No,
Yeah.
well, a lot of the record was recorded with the band that I was mentioning, and it was kind of my fantasy to always just record, like, not be so like we're going to record now and everybody gets nervous. Kind of like a Neil Young thing. He just records everything. And that's why he gets those great performances, because recording is just part of performing, you know?
Yeah.
And so we just recorded our practice for like 4 or 5 months, and we got a lot of good takes that way that was just really organic, like cool interplay of band, you know?
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. Then I
Right,
kept writing
right.
more songs, and I didn't want to put the record out during that. So there was a lot of stuff that was recorded during the pandemic, but we tried to match the feeling of the like more live recordings, and it's kind of hard to tell what's what. That was
Cool.
what we were going for. So
Okay, so it's a mixed bag.
yeah, it came out nicely.
Excellent.
It sounds like more like there's more stuff going on than two of us making a bunch of racket. It's like a band,
nice.
you know.
Yeah, it's a lot. It sounds like people got together and played some music,
Yeah,
and in fact, that's what's happening.
what's happening?
So this is how many albums now for the Gift Machine proper?
You're going to have to answer that.
I don't. Probably 9 or so,
9.
something like that.
You don't challenge that?
No, I
I
came
don't
around in
know. I might be-
2006, so there was some
It might
before
be
that. I
8.
don't even know.
There's
how
Might
some,
be 8
yeah.
and an EP. I think maybe it's 9. I don't remember. I quit counting.
Oh, come on. It's not that many.
We did like 37 albums last year. They call me, Pollard Jr. No,
I mean, you blink, you
wish.
miss it,
yeah.
Why did you go to Evergreen? What was that all about?
I went to Evergreen. I really wanted to get into. So I was young and idealistic, and I wanted to find the truth of the world. And I was into science. I was good at like science and math, but creative too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Matter in Motion, and I was thinking like, I'm going to learn how the world works. I wanted to get into kind of like plant medicine, genetic stuff, like because I get so irritated when they're like, the pharmaceutical companies spend all this money researching plants and then change one chemical and say the plant stuff doesn't work. I just wanted to, anyway. But studying science at Evergreen and doing seminar, I'm like, the truth is this like fluttering bird, especially in the sciences. It's like it's changing all the time, and it's like I realized I didn't want to be a scientist, but I did learn how to learn at Evergreen. So I always say
That's
that.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a great experience.
And you know how to be a scientist if you want to.
Right, troubleshooting comes in handy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, speaking of which, there's a science down to you got your music down to a science. You consistently keep sounding like the Gift Machine. It's comfort music.
Well, thank you.
I feel like wasn't it comforting to hear some of that sonic blanket that you guys bring
Well, thank you.
on a hot day even.
We're like
It's
your,
still a
your
blanket.
musical nourishing nervine.
Yeah.
Goals. I mean, that's my goal anyway.
Well, I want to thank you guys for making it all the way up here. And
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
can you tell me about your Northwest Jollies you've been getting
It's
on
been
your visit?
It's been really amazing. It makes me incredibly homesick. Like there's something about playing music up here. The crowds, everyone's just so nice.
Well, we love you very much. Thank you for coming, and
Thank you for having us.
I hope it's not another 4+ years.
No, we have the bug
Here.
again. So.
Yeah, we'll hold you in our hearts until that day.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us.
The gift machine, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
In just a few minutes, we'll have Joshua James Amberson up to read from his book, Staring Contest.
Thanks, Markley. Really appreciate you asking me to come up. It's been doing some book and book-like events. I'm doing a book tour, which is just like doing a couple events a month for a series of months. It's not really a hitting a road kind of thing, and it's been feeling really great. And I've been wanting. I used to live in Olympia for 11 years, and I've been watching these Scherler Sundays the past 2 years and really wanting to come up. So it was really nice to have an excuse. I'll be reading from this book, as you mentioned, Staring Contest, Essays About Eyes. Came out in May on Perfect Day Publishing. And it's an essay collection about if we're sighted, how we use our eyes or how we relate to our eyes in various different ways. There's a memoir thread in it about having an eye condition and having vision loss at certain points in my life. But there's also a lot of just thinking broadly about how we see the world in different ways. And so I'm going to read just a really short part of an essay about photography. And I know Gift Machine got us started on the photography thread about shooting people for a living, which is actually, some of that is in this essay. I won't be reading that section, but I thought that was kind of neat that, and it's also really nice to play with, read with Gift Machine, because I actually played in some bands. I played shows with Gift Machine in the late aughts, so it feels like a really fun throwback, And anything else you need to know here? Let's see. I'm going to drop us into kind of the middle of the essay, and basically, I'm in high school getting into darkroom photography. I think that's what you need to know, and really in love with the street photographer, especially American street photographers or street photographers photographing America, like the Swiss photographer Robert Frank in his book The Americans. So I had a lot of passion and not a lot of talent. So I think that's what you need to know going in here. My least favorite English teacher doubled as the photography teacher. He liked talking about how if we practiced hard enough, we could one day work at the portrait studio in the mall. Even if I had a different teacher, there would have remained so many things about the class I didn't like. The way we all crowded into the dark room together, everyone watching over your shoulder, the fact that we had to stay after school to get anything significant done. But my biggest issues with photography occurred outside the classroom and the dark room. As a shy, overly polite teen, it was difficult for me to point a camera at someone's face, even when my subject was aware of what I was doing and was willing to participate. I'd imagined photography would be a way for me to reveal my view of the world to the world, but I hadn't thought about what that revelation entailed. It wasn't as simple as it looked in Frank's photos. The casualness and apparent ease turned out to be an illusion. So I opted to take pictures of coffee mug handles and train rails, stacks of bricks and chair shadows. Even then, I had to deal with other people. Each time I took a picture in public, there was someone asking what I was doing while I was doing it. I told myself that these people just couldn't imagine the ordinary transformed. The truth was that I didn't want to admit the obvious. Taking a picture of a cup will make anyone look like a fool, regardless of their inner vision. Filmmaker Wim Wenders says that he is, quote, in search of a new word for this new activity that looks so much like photography, but isn't photography anymore. In the age of latte roses, mere selfies, and screenshots, I understand Wenders' argument. There's something different, something other about the current manner in which people visually document the world. It borrows aspects from art photography, advertising photography, photojournalism, and point-and-shoot casualness, while not quite being any of those things. But photography has always encompassed so many styles that vendor statement also seems silly, snobbish. Photography has always resisted being any one thing, resisted being an art, resisted being something that can be universally held in high regard. Making any broad statement about photography is bound to come up short because photography is so much. Photography is Sears portraits, gallery art, journalism, and porn. It's a mountain range at sunrise, an abstract pattern on the surface of a body of water, a small rodent approaching extinction, a wool sweater on a handsome model. It's bacteria on a petri dish, bodies at a crime scene, stars forming in the Eagle Nebula. It's framed portraits on the mantle, old Life magazine special issues at the thrift store, dusty albums on the bookshelf, the headshots of aspiring actors, Instagram feeds, Facebook profiles, press photos. It's weddings, graduations, and the first day of school. It's disposable cameras, point and shoots, XLRs, Polaroids, medium and large formats, but now mostly phones. It honors, it exploits, it educates us, it turns us on and turns us off. Photography evades us, Roland Barthes writes. We might say that photography is unclassifiable. In community college, I did a series in 24-hour grocery stores late at night, photographing my stoned friends examining fruit. I shot from the hip at checkout lines, parked myself at the automatic doors, and tried to embrace the endless rows of overbearing fluorescence. As if doing a project in the least ideal lighting conditions wasn't already challenging enough, I decided to expose the images with transparency overlays where, in my childish scrawl, I scratched in lines of poetry I'd written. The result looked like an accident, barely legible words existing without explanation at the bottom of each print. I liked it, had put a lot of thought and time into it, but to most people, it was more or less unintelligible. I should have started with something simpler, something straightforward, but I couldn't allow myself to be a beginner. I had too many ideas for that. I did a photo series of my friend in his garage, hood up on his car, shop light playing off the metal, contrasted against the surrounding darkness. I spent the entire session underneath, hidden, looking up through the gaps between the blocks and the hoses. This was where I was most comfortable, with one other person in a private location, the subject at ease, doing something they loved. During these years, Walker Evans' words were a mantra I prominently displayed in my journal. Stare, pry, listen, eavesdrop, die knowing something, you are not here long. His encouragement inspired me to be brave, to put myself out there without worrying how others responded. Deep down, though, I didn't want to pry or stare, didn't want to make people uncomfortable. I wanted to soothe, to calm, to assist in helping another person lower their guard. But here was the problem. As far as I was concerned, artists didn't work like this. This was the train of yearbook and wedding photographers. Necessary roles, sure, but never imbued with the importance and romance of art. I tried to ignore the fact that my skills were likely more suited to the mall portrait studio than the art world. I tried to push myself out of my comfort zone, but every time I picked up a camera, I questioned who I was. I'll stop there. Thanks. Markley's going to come up, ask me some questions.
So you've been in the zine world for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
And probably longer.
Probably longer, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about how you got into that? Like, what was your first exposure that you remember?
Well, I got into zines in the mid-'90s. I was in middle school and living in Snohomish, Washington, outside of Snohomish in the rural area, and didn't have a lot of connection to art scenes or anything like that. And but my mom had a subscription to Spin magazine, and at that time they reviewed zines, and they just had a title, a review, and then somebody's home address,
right,
and an amount of money that zine cost. So I didn't really understand what zines were when I read my first zine review, but I sent, $2 in an envelope to a random address and got a zine back, and I was hooked. It was a way to, access these art scenes from out in the sticks, and and that's I've never forgotten that or taken that for granted, and so I still think, even as I've been in kind of more bookish worlds at the same time, I'll never stop making zines, because there's a potential in zines that books just don't have, nothing else has. It's kind of a special medium, and so I'll always be that 13-year-old in the country ordering zines through the mail, and some part of me deep inside will always be that. So yeah.
Were you sort of a curator before that? Like, when did that sort of thing? I should clarify. So you ran a distro for a long time here in Olympia called Miss Valerie Park.
Yeah.
And that then that sort of transitioned into Antiquated
Future. Yeah. Around the time I moved, which is 10, 11 years ago. Yeah, we changed our name to Antiquated Future. Also a label, and Guide and Bear that plays next week is on the label, and some other great Olympia artists. And so there's still a strong, and a lot of the zines we carry, or at least some of the zines we carry, are from Olympia writers and artists and zinesters. And so, I try to, even though I don't make it up as much as I used to, I feel like Antiquated Future still has a strong kind of connection to Olympia. At least I hope so.
Yeah, it's got a limb.
It's got a limb attached to Olympia. Yeah, it's kind of like a creature, and this Olympia is one of its many limbs. Yeah.
So I wanted to. I haven't finished it all the way yet, but How to Forget Almost Everything is the first novel.
Yeah, it came out last fall. Yeah.
It's like a coming of age around the financial crisis, and kind of figuring out how to move forward with someone in your family whose mind is changing.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy concept. It's a YA novel technically.
Yeah.
I guess the protagonist is a YA.
Yeah. Protagonist is a YA.
But it's beautifully written, and I was wondering, like, what the process was for that particular story, and how you kind of landed on that, went with it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of I guess different than I often work, and maybe because I do more nonfiction writing than fiction writing. But that book started about 8 years ago, and it was just through a free write. The first person narrator just started, it just happened. And I didn't plan on writing a novel at that point. I didn't plan on, let alone writing a YA novel, but I felt like I had to follow the voice. And I did that for a number of years, and then kind of put it in the proverbial drawer and was like, oh, it probably will never see the light of day. And interestingly, one of the few people that read that draft started a press just a couple years ago, and reached out to me and say, hey, do you still have that novel? I think we should work on it. And I've got a really great editor, and let's just do this. And so, no, that never happens to a writer. We usually have to beg people to publish our stuff. And so I felt like I really felt like I'd let go of that book, and was like, oh, okay, I learned some things from it. I learned how to work in the long form with that. And that's okay. I can accept that. It can live in the drawer forever. But then the fact that somebody had reached out to me and said, you know, that should be in the world, I felt like I couldn't say no to that. You know, that didn't seem, I like following signs, you know, and just like, I mean, it's not the most like cryptic of signs, someone just saying that, you know, we should publish this. But just, yeah, I was like, well, that's an opportunity, and that's interesting, and maybe working with these editors, that can become the thing that they could help me take it to the place that I was never able to go with it on my own. And I felt like they were able to, and so it was really, you know, sometimes I was a little conflicted in there whether we should be doing this, you know. I was like, maybe it should have stayed in the drawer. I kept having those kind of existential crises during the process, but...
Yeah, is it hard to let go of something and pass it on to an editor and just like...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of back and forth. So...
It's a dialogue.
It's like a dialogue the whole time.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah. At least with all the editors I've worked with, and you know, I've done a lot of arts and culture writing, book reviews, music, journalism, and stuff like that. And sometimes you just hand it over to an editor, and then they change what they're going to change, and then it comes out in print, and then you're like, well, I didn't really write that, you know, but. Right. But you know, it's close enough, I guess. And but. It hasn't been like that. It's not, I don't think, usually like that when working in a full book form. And but yeah, it does change a lot in the process, and that's kind of a you know, I don't always know what I think about the changes while they're being changed, you know, and so I have to trust that when I look back at it months later, or when it comes out in print, that, okay, yeah, that was the right decision, so.
And with Staring Contest, I mean, did you just sort of realize you had a lot of things about eyes written, or is it?
Yeah, well, maybe...
It's different styles throughout, and different perspectives.
Yeah, it was maybe... I say the book took about... It wasn't working on it straight through. I took some breaks, but about 6 years ago was when I was like, okay, I'm working on a book, and this is what it is. But about 10 years ago, I wrote what I thought was a one-off essay about my eye condition, and then I was like, all right, it's done. I never have to write about that again. That's great. It's off the table. And then, yeah, it crept back in ways, and I had a few people kind of convince me there was a book there. And at first, it was just, I didn't want to write, I didn't think it was a memoir. You know, there wasn't, it's like, it's been challenging to deal with the condition, but it hasn't been.
What's the condition exactly?
It's called PXE. It's a genetic condition that affects all parts of your body. Is a cellular-based condition, but the retinas are an area that often, at least for some PXE patients, take the brunt of it. And so I started having retinal hemorrhages because of it in my 20s, and it's been a lot to figure out it was a lot to figure out because the treatment for it was pretty new, and it wasn't created for that condition. So, so there is a memoir, like I mentioned, line or you know, narrative line in the book. But if it was just that, I would find it really boring for myself as a writer. And so when some friends were like, I think there's a book here, I was like, there's not a book here. You know, it's not a memoir. And they're like, well, start thinking thematically. Like, think about what are some eye and vision related things that you think about that maybe other people aren't thinking about all the time. And once I had someone say that to me, I was like, I just had 20 ideas. You know, I was like, oh yeah, I could write an essay about that and an essay about that. And it just, I was convinced as soon as I was stopped thinking people were telling me to write a memoir, and people were telling me to write something, more expansive and a little weird. I was like, oh, I can do that. So, it was really, I learned a lot in the process, and one of my favorite Portland presses, Perfect Day, picked it up, and they just do really good work and are really dedicated, and so I kind of felt like I was in good hands, and it transformed, and I was okay with all of its transformations because I was just felt like I found the people who knew what it needed to be or what it needed to look like in its final form.
Yeah. Friends making up the advice panel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, writers got to write. You got something going on? Something in your pocket right now?
Something that I'm working on?
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as because for the past, this last year has made me look much more prolific than I am, because I had these 2 books come out within 5 months of each other. And
yeah, you better step on it.
Yeah, so it really looked like I was, not, people see that and they don't realize that those were many years in the process. And, but yeah, the past couple years I've just been editing these. I've been writing other things here and there for zines and whatnot, but mostly just editing these 2 books. And when I handed in this manuscript, or when it finally went to print and I could no longer change anything, I just had a couple ideas right away, and I was like, oh, they weren't there before, but then as soon as the space was there for them, I was like, okay. All right, yeah. So I've got a novel that I've been slowly poking away at, and set in the 90s in Everett, Washington. And I'm toying around with a music book idea, so we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
You still playing some tunes on your own time?
I took a break. I don't write songs anymore or anything like that, but some writer friends in Portland about a year ago asked me if I wanted to play bass in a band, and I was like, I haven't played music for a long time, and but I've actually been having a blast, and we just recorded our first EP, and it'll probably come out on Antiquated Future later this year. We're called Golden Tiles.
Killer.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming all the way up here.
Oh, thanks for the invite, Markley. I really appreciate it.
And for people who want to explore more, where can we find your catalog, all your work?
I have a writer's website, which is just joshuajamesamberson.com, and most of my things, even when they come out with other presses, I'll still distro them through Antiquated Future, so you can find, I think, anything that's in print on Antiquated Future. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool.
All right.
Well, lots of love.
Oh, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Joshua James Amberson, everybody. And we've got Hot Rush coming up in 3, 2,
about to say to me. And I know that I can't get enough of my love. And I know that I can't get enough of my love. It's my burning soul. Happiness on my shoulder, yeah. It's good enough. I'll take it up. I'll make it play. Give me one more way. Taking back your love. I'm in love. It's a little strange. It's about to sing to me. It's about to sing to me. 'Cause I'm gone and I can't get enough of my blood. I'm on the line. I take too much money and I'm wasting up time. I'm on the line. I'm thinking of something good to my blood. I'm on the line. Takes a lot of time to learn what I can read online. What is one thing a lot of time what I can read online. Seeing double, feeling like one more. It's the devil like knocking on heaven's door. But again, in progress, it's good, everything's good. Seeing double, feeling like one more. I'm on the fire.
So why did you start Hot Rush? What
Um,
was I mean, he had a band in high school called Collateral, and I was their biggest fan.
Uh-huh.
And there's no media of them available ever except a video on YouTube that we put up a week ago.
Oh, really?
He was the drummer.
We found old hi-8 tapes.
Yeah, old hi-8 tapes. And so their guitarist moved away, so they ceased to be a band. And so I was like, hey, Kenny, you want to start a band with me? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And so, yeah.
And that was 20 years ago.
We played for about a year with just the two of us, like this, but both of us on guitar.
Whoa,
and then we found a drummer and a bass player, and then we're doing that for a few years, and they moved, and then we found some more people, then more people moved, and then we found some more people, and just kind of cycles now.
We've been the core the whole time, though, yeah.
Yeah, this is our first two-piece show in a long time, but our guitar thing didn't work that we were trying. It was supposed to sound like a bass and a guitar separately, but I tried rewiring it the other day, and I'm not good at that, so I failed.
There's a lot of science going on here.
Yeah, it's just wires and solder and electricity and stuff. But yeah.
Have you been on Your Daily Hour with Me before?
Oh, hundreds of times.
Today?
Hundreds.
Yeah, today too.
Today.
Yeah.
So you guys, Your Daily Hour with Me is Kenny's TV show where he talks to people.
Yeah. I was just there before this, when then we came over here.
We were there at 1:30 to 2:30, roughly. 1:45 to 2:45.
You've done this show since what year? Since
2010.
10.
So whatever.
13 years.
time.
And how many episodes?
Like 4,600 and some.
4654, right?
Yeah.
Today, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, on your way to 4,700 without any days off. Did you?
Yeah, no days off so
You
far.
haven't skipped one. Do you ever have to make it up? And do it like
no,
the day later?
I haven't. I've made it through all the days, even if I'm not.
We re-recorded when we toured too.
Yeah.
Harvest did 2 tours in
We
17
took
and 18 or something.
took the program on the road.
Yeah, we took the program on the road too with the band, and had to find electricity everywhere to do the show, and we did it in the car once.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the band practice be a part of the show?
No.
Or are you separate entities?
Yeah, it's always-
The band has never been on the show.
It's always been separate, and we had a lot of bands on the show, but I never had my own band on the show.
I used to run sound when they did TCTV Fridays, so we could never play, obviously. But
Someday, if you want to get a substitute host so you can have Hot Rush on as a
Yeah.
guest, you know.
That's a good idea. We should do that. We could do it here, maybe, huh? Or
yeah.
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 Right now?
Yeah. Well, is this it?
Is this it? This is Your Daily Hour with me. I'm your guest host today.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking for an hour, taking some phone calls. Let's listen to some voicemails.
Hey, what did you eat for breakfast today?
Oh, that's good. So your songs used to be a lot more angry.
A lot better? No.
No. I mean, well,
Yeah.
what's the last time you guys came up with some new jams?
Oh, we're always writing
Oh,
like
3 weeks ago about?
3
yeah.
weeks.
A couple
Okay.
of these songs
We had
are
like
new.
3 new
Some-
songs on the set that we've never played before in front of people.
Yeah, but I have been playing
Kind of constantly.
the nylon string at home a lot.
Acoustic.
So I think it's reflected in the new songs. Like, so I could play them on that thing. Maybe they're less yelly. Yeah, but we've had a lot of lineup changes, and that has influenced the sound too.
Yeah.
So we used to have like
sure.
a metal guy.
You can kind of tell who's in every album based on what
Yeah.
it sounds like.
We had like a metal bass player for a while, so then we're sounding more metally, and
That
then
was
I
the
think there was like a
first album, and then we had
the guy's last name was actually wasn't Jesse Hendricks? Is it last name Hendricks?
Herrings.
Herricks? Oh,
Herrings.
it's
Herrings.
almost Hendricks, and we sounded kind of like 60s-ish
He's a
in that time too.
bluesy guitar player. He was on the album 11.
Yeah, Hendrix adjacent.
Yeah.
Like in the phone book.
I
it's
saw
somewhere.
Same letters.
Well, I can't wait to hear the new Hot Rush album,
Yeah, we're
and it's gonna be.
We're always working on the next one.
we're figuring it out for these next 2 shows we have.
I hope it doesn't
scheduled.
have too many curse words on it, like the last one.
Yeah,
Blue?
we got.
That one had not many
There's a-
curse words. Or
There's
had
a good
couple
amount of
songs
curse
about-
words. I mumbled through some of them today for the kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just got to reinforce that.
yeah.
No, it's okay. You can say whatever you want.
My kid hangs out and watches us practice often as we practice during his nap time because we have an electronic drum set that we practice on.
Ooh,
That probably maybe that made us mellower too.
Yeah.
Jeremy has kids now.
Yeah, my kid. But he'll come down and practice and hear us swearing and doing all that. But
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
telling him that you can only swear in the
in the music room. Nowhere else.
Your daily hour with me is on every night on Channel 22 at, what I want to say.
It's 11:30 and 2 a.m. on
Really
TCTV, Channel 22.
Yeah.
Is this on TCTV as well? I think this show is on either right before or after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, chances are this is going to be sandwiched right in there.
So if you're watching this, maybe you just watched the other show, or you're going to.
Yeah. It's the Kenny Ward Power double hour.
Power 2 hours?
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's give it up for Hot Rush, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging and chatting and playing and
Absolutely.
rocking and
Thank
rolling.
you for having us here.
Yeah. Y'all know Kicking Giant?
Yes.
They're going to be here next week with Anna Oxygen and Guiding Bear. It's going to be fantastic. You've been listening to Low Profile. I'm Markley Morrison, and we just heard interviews and performances from Hot Rush, Joshua James Amberson, and The Gift Machine. You can find links to more of their work on this episode's website at lowprofilepodcast.com, where you can also find a full archive of previous episodes. Next time, we'll be back with live sets from Kicking Giant, Guidon Bear, and Anna Oxygen, plus a roundtable discussion with all those folks. Bless up, y'all.